and it's rushed for the headline that the hero was the bomber. The media cared nothing for my feelings as a human being.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today we're discussing 10 times the media ruined people's lives.
I basically lost everything in a matter of 12 days. I lost my family, I lost my job, I lost my roots, I lost my country.
For this list, we'll be looking at the most noteworthy individuals whose lives suffered severe negative consequences as a result of extensive media coverage and unwanted press attention. Which of these trials by media did you find the most appalling? Let us know in the comments. Jade Goody. An average working-class girl from Upshire, Essex, Jade Goody was catapulted to fame when she appeared on the third series of the reality show Big Brother.
And I had nothing, so to come out and then to be able to, have the life that I had, it was really nice for me. So no, I don't have any regrets at all.
Goody was vilified by the press and the public for her appearance and intellect, which was only made worse by what many deemed to be a disloyal personality.
The viewers hated her. They were all appalled, I think.
While Goody initially leveraged her fame to build a successful career, her image was once again marred following a racially motivated incident on Celebrity Big Brother. The media hounding never stopped, not even when she was diagnosed with cervical cancer.
She was diagnosed with cervical cancer in August last year and has undergone grueling chemotherapy sessions, but before Christmas was in good spirits.
Some even accused her of monetizing her condition and wanting to die in the spotlight. Ultimately, Goody passed away in March 2009 at the age of 27. Salah Eddin Barhoun. The 2003 Boston Marathon bombing was a terrorist attack that claimed the lives of 3 people and injured nearly 300 others.
It is a difficult morning here in Boston, one of many difficult mornings to come. Today, residents will put on a brave face and head back to work.
While authorities investigated the case, amateur online sleuths poured through hundreds of pictures and surveillance videos attempting to fish out the perpetrators. One particular image showing Salah Eddin Barhoun and his friend eventually made its way to the front page of the New York Post, seemingly labeling them as potential suspects.
This picture of Salah and a friend somehow made the jump to the front page of the New York Post with the headline, Bagmen.
Probably the hardest experience I ever went through.
However, the actual culprits were identified later that same day. Despite the publication clarifying the article and the FBI clearing Barhoun, the damage was already done. The Moroccan teen experienced profound emotional distress and was reportedly too scared to even leave his house.
It was a great lesson to learn from, and it was something that motivated me to do better in life.
Robert Marat. Robert Marat, a British-Portuguese consultant, was thrust into the spotlight after the 2007 disappearance of Madeleine McCann.
They felt from the beginning this was a case of abduction, of someone snatching their little girl as she was sleeping in their holiday apartment.
As the residents of Praia de Luz, Portugal, Marat initially assisted the local police in their investigation as a translator. However, authorities began looking into him and soon named him a suspect.
It was a huge effect. Unfortunately, it's myself and my family. It's completely destroyed it really for a long time.
Marat was interrogated for hours and his house was combed for any evidence, but none was found. Notwithstanding, British tabloids labeled him a predator and wrongly claimed that McCann's DNA was found in his house. Marat was eventually cleared as a suspect and successfully sued the newspapers that linked him to the crime. Despite this, he still feels that he will always be associated with McCann's disappearance.
I've tried to move on and my family's tried to move on, but it's always something that I'm linked to. Whenever there's anything that's new, my name gets mentioned in it. So I'd like to see it resolved.
Richard Jewell. Richard Jewell was working as a security guard at the Centennial Olympic Park during the 1996 Atlanta Olympics when he discovered a suspicious backpack under a bench.
Jewell, a former sheriff's deputy, had discovered the bomb in a backpack and helped clear the area before the explosion.
Jewell immediately alerted the authorities and helped evacuate the area before the bag, which contained a bomb, exploded. Jewell was initially praised for his efforts, but the eyes of suspicion quickly turned on him.
We've had instances in the recent past where police officers invented situations so that they could be the heroes. He started to have that that look about him.
The press attention was so aggressive, Jewell could hardly leave his house. He was painted in the media as someone looking for 15 minutes of fame by planting a bomb and later discovering it. Although he was later cleared of any involvement by the FBI and the actual perpetrator was arrested, Jewell's reputation was forever marred.
This is the first time I have ever asked you to turn your cameras on me. For 88 days, I lived a nightmare. For 88 days, my mother lived a nightmare too.
David Gasley. In 2003, British tabloid newspaper The Sun made a grave error that upended an innocent man's life. The publication put out an article in which they identified a man who was a convicted sex offender. However, in place of the man's actual picture, they mistakenly showed one of a completely different person, David Gasley. This error triggered a cascade of detrimental consequences for Gasley.
At first, many applauded the paper's bravery. But in its zeal to name and shame, the paper mistakenly identified innocent men.
He reportedly had to move out of his house and hold up at a friend's place for fear of public attacks. The Sun published 2 apologies to Gasley, claiming that the mix-up had come from a picture agency. The newspaper later paid an undisclosed amount in damages to Gasley. Diego PV. Criminal suspects are typically presumed innocent until proven guilty by a court of law. But in the case of Diego PV, the Spanish media acted as judge, jury, and executioner. Diego found his name in the headlines when his girlfriend's daughter passed away after suffering a fall in a playground. A doctor misinterpreted the bruises and marks on her body as signs of an assault and immediately alerted the police. Diego was arrested and his pictures were splashed on the front pages, with sensational headlines that accused him of being responsible for the girl's demise. When an autopsy revealed the true cause of her death, the newspapers apologized. But Diego was already so emotionally distressed by the ordeal that he required psychiatric treatments. Christopher Jeffries. When the body of Joanna Yates was found on Christmas Day 2010, police brought in her landlord, Christopher Jeffries, for interrogation.
Well, I think I was probably just numb at the time with the shock of it all.
Yates had initially been missing for about a week before her body was found in the snow about 3 miles away from her apartments. Jeffries, who also lived in the same building, was questioned for 2 days and released on bail. Although no charges were filed against him, the British tabloids demonized Jeffries, focusing on his eccentric appearance and peculiar behavior.
Reading those and reading them in such a concentrated and pointed form for the first time was very, very upsetting indeed.
All of this painted the picture that he was responsible for Yates's death, even after another neighbor of theirs, Vincent Tabak, was charged with the crime. Jeffries remained under intense scrutiny from the press and public.
The investigation later moved on to Yates's neighbour, Vincent Tabak, but even after his arrest, police never said publicly that Christopher Jeffries was no longer a suspect.
Nita Sultani. In 2009, protests broke out in Iran following the heavily disputed election of Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. Nita Sultan, an Iranian student, was shot and killed during these protests.
Sultan became an instant icon for Iran's opposition movement, protesting the re-election of President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad.
Her death was videotaped and widely shared on the internet, becoming a rallying symbol for the movement. However, when international publications began to report Agha Sultan's death, they mistakenly used the Facebook picture of another woman with a similar name, Nita Sultani. As a result, Sultani was vilified by both sides of the protest.
I tried to attract the attention of the media that, guys, this is wrong. This photo does not belong to the deceased person. They did not care. That was breaking news.
The Iranian government claimed that she was the same person and had faked her death, while the protesters saw her as a government agent sent to destroy their movement.
You think it was a pre-design that she be killed so they would have it on tape?
Yes? Definitely so. We have no doubt about it.
This led Sultani to escape from Iran to Germany, where she was granted asylum. Stephen J. Hatfield. In the weeks following the 9/11 attacks, a series of letters containing the toxin anthrax were sent to the offices of certain U.S. senators and news organizations.
Tonight we find ourselves in the unusual and unhappy position of reporting on one of our beloved colleagues, a member of my personal staff who has contracted a cutaneous anthrax infection.
This act of bioterrorism led to the deaths of 5 people. Early on in the investigation, a reporter connected American physician and bioterrorism expert Stephen J. Hatfill to the letters, triggering an FBI investigation.
The focus on Stephen Hatfill had seduced the top brass, but in the rank and file, not everyone buys it.
When he was publicly named a person of interest in the case, the media ran with it, creating a narrative of guilt that tainted his reputation. Hatfill sued the FBI in multiple publications, including the New York Times, Vanity Fair, and Reader's Digest. In 2008, he was officially cleared of any wrongdoing in the attacks.
The Department of Justice, the United States government, reached a legal settlement with Stephen Hatfill in which the government will pay him over $5 million for suggesting that he was a person of interest.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Caroline Flack. Caroline Flack was best known as the presenter for popular reality shows like The Extra Factor and Love Island.
No, but I have to take it quite seriously because when I come in at night, I only get one chance to deliver the news, whatever I've got to deliver. It's usually bad news. It usually means someone's leaving.
Throughout her career, Flack had been the subject of considerable media coverage, mostly regarding her high-profile romantic relationships. Things, however, took a devastating turn in 2019 when she was arrested and charged with assaulting her boyfriend, Lewis Burton.
He's previously said he wants the case against Caroline Flack to be dropped and doesn't support the prosecution.
Flack was subsequently hounded by the press, and her coverage in the tabloids became increasingly negative. This, coupled with online trolling, took a significant toll on her already fragile mental health. On February 15, 2020, seemingly dreading the media intrusion in the face of her apparent assault trial, Flack tragically took her own life.
Tonight, the first flowers were left on the pavement outside Caroline Flack's former home, as family, friends and fans begin to express their shock.